I'm a big Kendrick fan, and I love the halftime show, understanding that it wasn't a fucking Katy Perry halftime show. All right. There was no ass shaking. It was not like, bubblegum. It was not Harry Styles. It was Kendrick Lamar, the greatest rapper of our generations. You go, I mean, this was crazy. Like, I didn't realize how much Kendrick had broken through also to like young white kids until like I, was the old lady in the club once and I was like, "Oh shit, everybody knows all these lyrics and everybody's dancing to Kendrick, dancing to Kendrick." His new album is obviously a revelation. It's amazing. It's a love letter to LA. And so of course, the right was freaking out about it because it was very black. It was very like homage to it was protest art basically. And it was unapologetic and it wasn't like in your face. It wasn't like, Eminem saying like Bush or something like this. Not that he did that, but like it wasn't on the nose, but it was art. It was artful. And Kendrick's always done this because Fox News hates Kendrick Lamar, always talks about Kendrick Lamar. Like, he even included a Fox News clip in one of his songs, trashing him. So, but I just wanted to play a little mashup of how much Fox and other right wingers absolutely despised Kendrick's halftime performance because it wasn't for them.
The halftime show was awful.
I didn't like halftime.
Worst halftime ever.
What a nightmare. I kept sitting there saying, maybe I just don't get this guy. This guy, Kendall Lamar, and he won all these Grammys.
It was so bad. Jimmy.
How drunk are you? Kendall Lamar, and he won all these Grammys.
Jimmy Carter came back to life just to turn off the TV.
Bro, I couldn't understand a word that was being said.
It was hard to make out what was actually being said.
So bad, Trump was hoping someone would shoot him in the ear again.
Kendrick Lamar's 12 minutes of rap was basically a musical grudge match.
For me, it wasn't mass appeal.
The music itself is not broad enough or well known enough to reach generations. Now that Trump's president.
So again, these people have no idea what they're talking about because most high schoolers and college kids know exactly who Kendrick Lamar is. They grew up listening to Kendrick. And then with this latest year of him, Drake starting beef with him and him getting into an all out drag out rap battle or, diss track off or whatever you want to call it. And then having the Not Like Us smackdown, everybody knows who Kendrick Lamar is. So the idea that you're saying on, this old ass fool on Fox News is saying, I don't think Kendrick breaks through to generations. Bitch, Kendrick is the reason that young white people like took the streets in 2020, right? Like Kendrick, just like rap has done for generations, has actually not only for the Black community helped to channel the righteous rage of racial injustice and discrimination and over policing, just like, NWA in the 80s, or excuse me, the 90s. Kendrick did that for the kids who came up in 2014. And I don't just mean Black kids. I mean all kids. I mean all people who are paying attention and who like the subversive lyrics and who are like, it is your first, unless you're growing up in the like with a lot of Black kids, right? Which my school was public, so it was like majority Latino, then Black, then white, and then we Asians were a very small amount. But anyway, so like, but for a lot of white kids who like didn't have much exposure, they're like, oh, they listen, they learn the lyrics. So again, that is just so funny because you're just missing. You're missing why there is so much actual empathy and understanding and righteous rage from people who are not necessarily in the crosshairs of the state the way that, Black men and women are in the crosshairs of the state, but that through the influence of hip hop do understand. So it's just so funny that like Fox doesn't get that because it's like, were you not paying attention to anything that was happening in 2020?
We have someone like Willie Nelson at halftime.
Let's put Carrie Underwood and Reba and Morgan Wallen. Let them have a go at it.
A full-on Trump rally for the halftime show. Morgan Wallen or Zach Bryan plays us 2 or 3 songs. Trump comes out with an executive desk, signs 5 executive orders, and Shane Gillis takes us out with a 5-minute set. Best halftime show ever.
And Shane Gillis takes us out. Oh my God, that's such a badge of dishonor. So the other thing about this is like, let us look, I am not a football person. I really don't like care. I just don't care. I said it. I don't care. I understand. It's fun. It's cool. People bet money. I don't care. But what I will say is it's not lost on me nor anyone that the majority of football players are African American. And it only until recently was actually pretty unique, right? To have like a black quarterback, to say nothing of like black management or coaching. And homie from the quarterback from the Eagles, his entire management team are women. That's also something unique. So another thing, his name. Okay, I know his name. Jalen something. Jalen, Mr. Hot. Jalen. I've got really pretty eyes. But like, so the idea that all you need is like Carrie Underwood and other, unremarkable white entertainers. I mean, Willie Nelson's name was mentioned, which is like, okay, that's fine. But like, that's all you need is once again this like slap in the face to like this, a sport that largely relies on black labor, right? Once again, and is also about is black entertainment. So it's like, sorry that this form of black entertainment made you feel a little uncomfortable, or you didn't understand every word, or you didn't get it and you actually like Drake. Sorry, but sometimes things aren't necessarily for you, and also sometimes things are incredibly subversive. And like I said, it was protest art. It was not hitting you over the head with it. It wasn't ham-fisted. And so this was a great little breakdown from Khalil Green on Substack, who wrote about the meanings of the halftime show. Kendrick Lamar isn't just a rapper. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning storyteller known for his sharp lyricism, layered metaphors, and deep social commentary. His Super Bowl performance was no exception, packed with the symbolism that requires the same level of analysis as great poetry or film. Let's break it down in 6 key elements that made his performance unforgettable. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get to the end of this, but I'm like, I like this. I love this kind of stuff. I'm a big like, I want to read the analysis of of the art that I just saw. Maybe that means I'm not sophisticated, but I like. At first glance, Samuel L. Jackson's appearance might seem like oh, by the way, we are going to talk about the protester who was part of Kendrick's dance team. So I want to AJ Plus, my good friend Dina Tekruri did an interview with the guy who protested. So we're going to watch that in a little bit. I don't want to forget. Sam Jackson was in it, right? And he's sort of this like entertainer. He's like Uncle Sam the whole time. So this guy basically like, Sam Jackson's been political for many, many years. In the performance, Jackson plays the role of commentator dressed as the popular embodiment of the U.S., Uncle Sam, critiquing Lamar's decisions like a coach in a high-stakes game. His presence symbolized a mentor figure and ties to the larger theme, the ongoing struggle of Black Americans trying to navigate a game that's rigged against them. Jackson's authority and voice set the tone for the performance, showing that this is more than entertainment. It's a powerful cultural critique. And it's funny because Sam kind of like Samuel Jackson, L. Jackson, the whole time, he's sort of like the ringleader, the ringmaster, and he is very much reprising his role in Django Unchained. So like kind of like a, Uncle Tom in air quotes figure, like a Uncle Ruckus figure from, Boondocks, but the guy who's like complacent to the white man. And it's like, we gotta, give them entertainment, give them something they want. And during the halftime show, if you watch it, there's a moment where Kendrick starts playing the hits, like he plays All the Stars with SZA, which is the Black Panther, was basically the theme song to the Black Panther movie, which, by the way, if you have not listened to Kendrick's Black Panther soundtrack, it's so good. It's like one of my favorite albums. But So after he plays the hit, Sam Jackson's like, that's more like it. Yeah, give these whiteys, effectively what they need. He didn't say whiteys. But I love this. He says, Jackson's opening line, "This is the great American game," introduces a central metaphor of the entire performance. Of course, it's also a reference to football. But when the whole performance started, I looked at this and I was like, yo, what the hell is this? Because you see, I've been watching Squid Game. So I was like, is it a Squid Game reference? And it was the square and the like cross and the circle and the triangle. And it turns out that's for those of you who know, that's like a PlayStation controller. Throughout the performance, Jackson's commentary offers critiques of how Lamar plays the game. This mirrors the real world pressure on Black artists to conform to respectability politics, to fit into a narrow definition of success. Initially, Lamar appears to be persuaded to play along by the game's rules, performing radio-friendly pop hits with SZA, but his defiance builds over time. The turning point comes when he delivers his diss track, Not Like Us, following a bold declaration. 40 acres and a mule, this is bigger than the music. They tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence. 40 acres and a mule apparently was like the Google searches for it, like skyrocketed, which is about what formerly enslaved people were promised once they were freed from their shackles, that, as part of Reconstruction, as part of reparations, not reparations, but yes, then reparations, that 40 acres and a mule would be promised. Of course, that was not delivered upon. They try to rig the game, but you can't fake influence. In other words, he's got influence. The line directly references the broken promise of reparations after the Civil War. When Black Americans were denied the land they were promised by rejecting the game's rules, Lamar makes a statement about a system that was never designed to be fair in the first place. They go into the symbolism of the Buick. Then this is the part he said, Lamar says at some point, he goes, the revolution's about to be televised. You picked the right time, but the wrong guy. Now, when I heard the wrong guy, initially, my initial response was he means himself. Like, I'm not the guy who's going to like do the revolution for you, or like, I'm not, I can't save you. But then other people were interpreting it as maybe he means Donald Trump, like you picked the right time, but the wrong guy, like you voted wrong. This is what. So obviously, the revolution not be televised is from the Gil Scott-Heron protest song. Lamar takes this idea and flips it, declaring his revolution is televised on the world's biggest stage, the Super Bowl. His very presence in this moment is an act of defiance and power, bringing the revolution into the living rooms across the globe. At the same time, Lamar warns those who might underestimate him, saying, you picked the wrong guy. This phrase, instantly recognizable to many Black communities as a taunting declaration of strength, similar in tone to the phrase FAFO. It's a bold statement that reminds his audience and critics that he won't be silenced no matter how powerful his opponents are. So that's a way to say you picked the wrong guy, like you picked the wrong guy to mess with, kind of thing. You picked the right time, but the wrong guy. Either way, it's great. I don't necessarily need to know. Obviously, Serena Williams is out there, and it was amazing. And then, of course, he ends talking about, and this is what I like about Not Like Us, right? Like, the entire premise of the song Not Like Us is beyond Drake. And it's not just that Drake is a poser, effectively, that Drake, leans on other people's cred in order to build his own. And, Lamar does the whole like breakdown of all the different rappers that he tried to be like and imitate and sort of leached off of. It's not just that Drake is is your predator or likes to date 18, 19-year-olds, slash like 16, 15-year-olds, and like, I'm really good friends with Millie Bobby Brown. We're just friends. I give her dating advice. Super normal. But the real thing that Not Like Us is about like the line, you're not a colleague, you're a colonizer. Kind of like, I recognize what's fake. I recognize what's, what's a distraction. I recognize what has been manufactured. So again, Not Like Us, and I'm not trying to like appropriate it and be like, it's my story too. It very much feels like a commentary on Black appropriation of, culture. But it is more than that. And especially in a year of genocide, being like, you're not a colleague, you're a colonizer, is just like, doesn't it hit a little bit harder? It's just so good. So of course it was going to go over the heads. I feel like it's funny because Beyonce did this to them. And this is the other thing that's interesting about Beyonce. This is the last thing I'll say for those of you who are tired about me talking about pop culture. But Beyonce had this new album that just won album of the year, which was, what was it called? I'm like Renaissance. God, I'm so terrible. Honestly, this wasn't my favorite Beyonce album. That's why I don't love it. It's not Cowboy Carter. I'm sorry, Cowboy Carter. And Beyonce's whole thing is like, okay, if people are laughing at me because I'm trying to do country, even though I'm from the South and I'm like, country is in my blood, I am super country. I'm going to do a whole album that is country, but it's going to be very Americana. It's going to be very like, we belong here. Black Americans belong in the country sphere. And that is definitely a protest in and of itself. But that's much safer of an angle. Like, it's more of an assimilationary, like, hey, we're country too. Like, to me, it's more safe of an angle than what she did in, 2018 or 2017, where she was like with this all female dance troupe with wearing like Panther black berets, and did like Formation. And I do think that because Kendrick is a man, they went a little bit easier on her. I think sexism absolutely plays a role, and I'm sure they would be mad at Beyonce. Beyonce did perform in one of the ball throwing games as well. But like, the right knew exactly what to do with the Beyonce performance. They were like Black Panthers, woman, Black excellence. I hate all of this. She's anti-American. And remember, that was around the same time that the Black Lives Matter movement was popping off, and Formation and the entire Lemonade album, Formation especially, had like these sort of hat tips and nods to the BLM movement. You have to make it a little harder for them to attack you, and I think Kendrick did it brilliantly. Here is the protester who was at the Kendrick Lamar performance, and not the protester, he's a dancer. He was hired. And he says that when he found out that he was going to be on top of the car, like he was going to be pretty visible, that he knew what the assignment was.
I mean, we over here eating steaks, hummus, sleeping on big lofty pillows and beds, and you see images on your phone, widows, people walking miles on gravel, no shoes. How could I not? And then wake up and pray and say I'm a Muslim.
By now, you've probably seen the footage. It's Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show, and just as the last song builds to a climax, a performer holds up the flags of Palestine and Sudan. We caught up with the performer Zulkarnain Nantambu, who staged that protest.
People losing their loved ones, their children, so many janazas. I pray that their suffering is over. But while we going through it, we got to show that we with them.
How did the idea come about to unfurl the Sudanese and Palestinian flags while performing?
When we got into the Super Bowl, Superdome to practice, then I just started getting inspired on, man, hey, you're about to be a part of a big platform. Use this platform to highlight what your Muslim brothers and sisters around the world are going through. So when they called us out, I ran, jumped on the GNX, and then that gave me the height to unfurl the flag, and it could be seen, distinguished amongst all the other stuff that's going on. So it was like a platform to display it.
Oh, so he jumped on it. He wasn't supposed to necessarily be on it. He just jumped on it. And so he's Muslim, which I think is interesting and important. So that's his angle. But like, I think a lot of us might have done the same, even if you aren't Muslim.
They just saw somebody running around on the field. So they got a radio, go get this guy. We ran across the field and, they just gave more camera time, more people to pick it up there. And it was shown live. People that watched it live saw it. They saw it in the corners. Like if you go to the NFL's YouTube channel, you can watch the performance. The flag is still up. Then if you recognize it, you represent it. And that is really for them, not other people.
As you know, President Trump was in the audience. He's been talking about wanting the U.S. to take over Gaza. What is your message to President Trump?
I pray that God changes his heart for his sake and for America's sake. We got to do what's right because we don't want bad stuff to come upon us. My ancestors built this nation. I'm an American, true and true. The reason why I didn't need an American flag up there is because Kendrick handled that for me when they put the people in formation. I just added the flags that needed representation.
You upset all these powerful corporations, right? But you won the hearts and minds of so many people, and your following on Instagram has skyrocketed. So what do you think is the lesson in all of this?
The lesson is be on the right side of right. Do what's right. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, life is short. And we believe that what we do in this life determines where we'll go for eternity. And when you do it for the people, you always gonna be supported.
I love it. So I just what's right is right. Do what's right. I love that he was like, well, there was already an American flag, so I just had to represent the other people, other countries that we should be thinking of. And I want to know, like, did he get charged with anything? Like, what's going on? You know, did they throw the book at him? Like, it could be very. I'm sure there's fallout. He doesn't seem very bothered though. So maybe the lesson is do some cool shit. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.